So how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for stopping by and checking out another video. I know I haven't asked you to do this in a while, but please hit that thumbs up button icon and hit subscribe if you haven't already. But thanks for stopping by. Today on this video I'm going to do my 1,000-mile review for my Honda Monkey and just kind of let you all know how it's been holding up. So I got, I think, let's see, what do I got? How many miles do I got on here? 939 miles, so close enough to 1,000 miles. So this is basically my 1,000-mile review. I've owned this bike for over a year now, and these are my thoughts. It's kind of a trip getting back on this bike after riding that Harley Davidson for so much of the riding that I've been doing these last several months, and then hopping on this little tiny bike that weighs just over 200 pounds and taking it for a spin. It feels kind of weird because it is so light, but I'm not complaining because it just, you know, it kind of makes me feel, you know, careless. I wouldn't say carefree, I guess would be the right word, riding this bike compared to my Harley, because you could just take it so many different places and just it's so snappy and easy to handle, and it's just a fun little bike. So close enough to 1,000 miles on it. I haven't done anything to it other than change the oil, and I mean, I haven't even changed the cleaned out the spinner. I haven't changed out the gasket. I haven't done anything like that. All I did is I basically just dumped the factory oil out of it and put a brand new fresh quart of oil in it, and that's all I've done to this bike. And so far it's been 100% trustworthy and reliable. But I want to talk about one thing that I was having problems with when I first got this bike, and I'm going to say the problem lasted probably up until about just shortly after my first oil change. The problem was when I'd be riding, every once in a while I'd shift it into, go from first to second into third gear, and I'd accelerate while I'm in third gear, and it would stutter just a little bit, like almost like it slipped out of third gear just momentarily and then slip back into third gear. So it was kind of a strange problem that I was dealing with, and I thought maybe there was something wrong with it, but then I remembered that my Grom was doing the same thing, so I figured it's just something that these transmissions in these little bikes do. Well, sure enough, after I did my first oil change on it and put about, I don't know, maybe 50 to 100, maybe a couple hundred miles over my first oil change. So I changed it right at 600 miles. I think it was just before that. So we're talking right around 750 miles. Without even really realizing it, that problem had all but gone away, and I have not yet experienced that since. So I think it's just had something to do with the gears and the transmission meshing up and everything just kind of working itself into place. So ever since I've been riding it, you know, beyond the first oil change, the slipping in third gear went away, and this bike has just been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I enjoy riding the heck out of this thing, even though I've had it for over a year and I just barely almost have 1,000 miles on it. It doesn't mean that I don't ride it a lot, because I used to. I mean, I used to ride it quite a bit, but it's mainly just kind of like an around town, in town bike for me, and just going exploring in and around town. So I live in a small town, and putting a lot of miles on a bike is difficult unless I get out here and do a lot of long riding in the country, which I like to do on this bike, don't get me wrong, but to me this is just a fun weekend bike. I don't take it seriously. I don't do any serious commuting on it, and I don't do any big road trips on it either. This is one of those bikes that I can hop on and, like I said, just kind of feel carefree about going riding. This bike, I don't take anything too serious on it. I don't worry about where I'm going to park. I don't worry about where I'm going to ride on this bike, unlike a bigger bike like my Harley, where I have to make sure that I don't turn down too narrow of an alleyway and get stuck in some place that's full of potholes and gravels and not be able to make my way out of it. Whereas with being on this little monkey bike, I can go wherever the heck I want, over sidewalks, through breezeways, you know, that kind of thing. It just doesn't matter, because this bike is so small and lightweight. You could literally pick it up and turn it around and be back on your way. I mean, that is if you're a bigger guy. I mean, I picked this bike up, you know, just from a standstill. I can do it. Is it easy? No, because it weighs 225 pounds and it's dead weight. So it is not easy to just pick it up and spin it around. However, if you just kind of lean it over onto the side stand and just pivot it, you know, that little trick that people do. I think, was it Fort9 did a video about that. And also MotoJitsu showed you how to pivot your bike on the kickstand. You do that with this little Honda Monkey, and you don't need but about 3-foot radius to do it in, because it's just so easy to turn a little bike around. But it's been a great bike so far. It's basically just like riding a big bicycle with an engine on it. It handles so well and so easy. This bike, it will hit close to 70 miles an hour right off the factory floor. Now, I know it will because I did it on this. It was, what, 67 miles per hour in my top speed video, and I don't even know, maybe I had 100 miles on it. This thing will hit 70 miles per hour if the conditions are favorable. However, that's not where this bike lives. This bike lives at its top speed, which is usable, is going to be anywhere between 40 to 50 miles an hour. And the reason why I say that is because between 40 and 50 miles an hour is where you have your usable top speed. Now, yeah, you can get it up to 65, 70 miles per hour. That's not usable top speed. And what I mean by that is you're not going to pass anybody. That power is not there on demand. Whereas between 40 and 50 miles per hour is there on demand. So let's say you're driving down the road and you're coming up on traffic that's doing, I don't know, 60, and you want to pass somebody. Well, good luck with that. You might have to have a nice, at least flat land and a favorable wind condition in order to pass somebody doing 60 to 65 miles an hour. So it's not usable. So between 40 and 50 miles an hour is usable on these little bikes. And they'll do that all day. They'll hold 50 miles an hour all day, even in a pretty stiff wind. You can get up to even 55 miles an hour in a somewhat stiff wind. I do it all the time. That's just usable power right there. But I'm going to say 55 miles an hour is about where it tops out for your usable speed. Now, I know you could change a sprocket and do this or do that, but it's just going to change the characteristics of this bike. And to me, this bike, it has its own personality and its own characteristic because it's a little bit different than the Grom. I know, same motor, same engine, same transmission, same sprockets on them and everything. But what's different about the little Honda Monkey is it has taller tires on it, so it gives it a slightly better top speed. And it also makes it draws the gears out a little bit longer, gives them a little bit longer legs. First gear, second gear, third gear, and fourth gear has a little longer legs than the Grom does because of the Grom tires are a little bit shorter. And that just changes the gear ratio ever so slightly. Which is also what's nice about this little monkey, because right off of the showroom floor, the speedometers and these things are accurate to probably within a half a mile an hour. And I've tested it not only on a Garmin GPS, but also on my GoPro GPS reading, speed, everything. It just matches up within a half a mile an hour. So it's great. So whenever you're riding around on these bike and you're still carrying the stock sprocket and the stock tires on it, you can look down and sure as shit, that's what you're doing. That's your speed. Like it says I'm doing 32 miles an hour right now. Yeah, I'm doing 32 miles an hour. I don't even have to check. Whereas with the Grom, they read probably 5 to 6 miles an hour faster. Obviously it gets worse, you know, the higher the speed you are, the less accurate the speedometer is. But that's what's really nice about the Honda Monkey. It's very accurate on the speedometer. So let's talk about comfort. The seat. Obviously, the seat is one of the best parts about this bike, and it has broken in really nice. I mean, when you first get it, you sit on it, you think, man, this thing is super comfortable, but you still think about it because you're still kind of adjusting yourself around a little bit, and you're moving your butt back and forth trying to find that comfy spot on the seat. But after this seat breaks in, you just hop on this little bike and your ass is comfortable just for miles. And you could, and I've actually thought about it, you could go on a road trip with this little bike, just doing backcountry roads and things, and not interstate highways, but old highways, you know, old 2-lane highways and things where the speed limit's 55 and 60 miles an hour. I mean, that would be just so cool to do a road trip on this little bike, just doing 55 to 60 miles an hour, taking your time and just enjoying the scenery. But the seat, after it breaks in, is just so super comfortable and super squishy, and that combined with the soft suspension and the soft tires on this bike, I mean, it's so plush. The whole ride, it feels so soft. and the sound of the engine is like a nice little purr from a kitten. It's a great little bike. It's a great little experience. It's so awesome. I mean, they're well worth the money. And if you haven't already bought one of these little monkey bikes and you're thinking about doing it, now, I don't know anything for sure, but I mean, this is just speculation on my part. I think that Honda's going to do a couple things to change this little bike in the next couple of years. I think they'll probably do something to kind of modernize the style of them. And I think they're going to put a 5-speed transmission in them next time around, which is completely useless on these bikes. They don't have the power to use a 5th gear. I mean, they could barely use all of 4th as it is. Having a 5th gear in there is just, I don't know, it seems to me like it's pointless. Unless, of course, they were going to add, you know, another 3 or 4 horsepower to these motors. That would be absolutely killer. Get out of the way, birdie. I mean, if these little bikes went from 9 to, say, 13 or 14 horsepower with a 5th gear, yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, I'd love to have one myself at that point, but I just don't think that these bikes are going to stay the way that they are for very long. And I think this version of the new modern retro Honda Monkey is perfect in every way. Matter of fact, I haven't even changed anything about this bike. Not at all. Not the exhaust, not the mirrors, not nothing, because I think it's perfect just the way it is. So let's talk about gas mileage. 947 miles on the bike now. I just filled up, oh gosh, what was it? I don't know, about an hour and a half ago. I stopped by my favorite Liberty Mart where they sell ethanol-free gasoline, and my little gas gauge down here was 2 bars down, so I stopped in to fill it up, and it took 0.41 gallons to fill this thing up, so not even a half a tank. And I don't remember, I did a reset. I think I had a little over 40 miles. Yeah, like 47 miles, and it took like 0.40 something to fill it up. So 113 miles per gallon out of this little bike is just, it's pretty phenomenal. It's awesome. I don't think you probably wouldn't expect anything less. I mean, when I first got this bike, my first tank fill up from almost empty, it was getting a little bit better than that, and that was because I was babying the engine, and I was keeping the RPMs below, what do they suggest, below, I don't know, 2,000, whatever it is. You know, the braking procedure says keep the engine RPMs low, and since this doesn't have a tachometer on it, you can't really tell, but I was babying it, and I think I got like over 140 miles per gallon. So the fuel economy you can get out of these bikes is way up there if you baby the throttle on them, which I don't, you know, ride this thing around at, you know, hitting the rev limiter all the time, but I certainly don't baby the throttle. I mean, I get on it, jumping out into traffic and repping the engine out. I've never blipped this thing off the RPM limiter. I don't really plan on doing that, but like I said, I don't baby the throttle at all. So, but it still gets 113 miles per gallon, which is awesome. That's why you can put the very best of the best gas in this thing. When I filled it up, I think it was like 420 a gallon or something like that. But whoop-de-doo. You know, it took a half a gallon to fill it up. So, awesome on the gas mileage. The fit and finish on everything on here is holding up wonderfully. I haven't had any problems with any kind of rust. Of course, I don't ride it out in the rain, but this thing, unfortunately, did have to sit out in several rainstorms, and it got snowed on a couple times before I bought a little tarp tent cover for it from Harbor Freight, which I parked my Harley and my little monkey in. So I keep it under cover now, but before then, it sat out in the weather, and I don't have any problems with any of the chrome cracking or fading or doing anything weird. It's nice and clean. It's a little dusty, of course, but so I haven't had any problems with rust or the finish looking thin or doing anything weird. So it's holding up very well. I know it's not very old, but none of you guys out there watching this video, your monkeys aren't very old either. And I know some of you have complained about a little bit rust issues under the fenders and things like that. My suggestion, clean your bike more. You know, if you take your bike out and get it muddy and get it all wet and everything, bring it home and clean it off. Don't put your bike away ugly. That's just stupid. I mean, if you want to take care of your machine, then you should clean it. You know, take care of it. That way the next person that has the opportunity to buy your motorcycle from you at least gets a nice little bike instead of something that's been ran through the mud and beaten up and you've allowed it to rust. So I haven't had any problems like that. So anyways, in closing, I just want to say I am perfectly happy with my little Honda Monkey. If you're on the fence about buying one, I'd suggest you go out and do it before they change them, because you know they will eventually. These bikes won't stay the same forever. And God knows they better not do it to this bike what they've done to the Honda Grom. Ugh. That new one is just gross looking. So that's gonna about wrap it up. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button too. Really helps my channel out. Until the next time, I hope you guys have a good day, good weekend, good night, whatever you're doing. Everybody, ride safe, have a good day, and we will see you on the next video.